Hey everybody, Aaron Cowan, Sage Dynamics, and this is the Sons of Liberty Gunworks Mark 1. For full disclosure, getting right into it, I have a relationship with Sons of Liberty Gunworks. I am on their pro staff, so this is not a review. I repeat, it is not a review. It's an informational and, I guess, an opinion piece on what I think about Sons of Liberty's new generation of rifles in the Mark 1. For most people, myself included, the question always comes down to what can be done to improve the AR-15 platform, which is kind of what we're talking about. The majority of improvements that can be made are going to be ergonomic or sometimes aesthetic. There is no great departure with just assembling receivers and rails and throwing different barrels and different gas system lengths in it is going to create a dramatic improvement. And this is one of the questions that had some people scratching their head when the Mark 1 released. It became known and they put out some information on it. Getting right into it, the Mark 1 was designed for a Tier 1 unit, using their input, their feedback, their requests. That's where the rifle came from. The idea behind the rifle started with a request from Dev Group. And that's become more common knowledge. Now, of course, Mike Michalski, Nate Horvath, the guys at Sons of Liberty, anything that's going to be available for special people is also going to be available for the commercial market. So the Mark 1 comes standard with an 11.5 barrel, which we're going to talk about. It is a full billet upper and lower receiver with a rail to match. And just, if you look at it from a distance, you're like, hey, it's an AR-15. Why does it cost what it costs? And we're going to talk about what went into some of the subtle but very value-added features of the Mark 1. It has a continuous 12 o'clock pick rail section, not technically, well actually not even monolithic, but it gives you a full accounting of available rail space with no dead space in the mating between the rail and the receiver. So you have maximized pick accessories, and that Picatinny was extended as far to the rear as possible and obviously as far forward as possible, almost right up to the barrel itself or into the threading of where the threading of the barrel starts. The 12 o'clock rail also has accessory routing, cable routing with rounded recesses between the pick sections for easy outs of those cables for accessories. If you're just going to throw a light on it, might not be something you need, but if you're throwing a light and a laser on there and any other accessories you might put on it, being able to route those cables if you need to the 12 o'clock accessory, and then throw some zip ties or some retention systems, whatever you got to put in there. And of course, it is an M-LOK rail, 7-sided M-LOK, so you can mount your accessories virtually anywhere you might need them so they don't unnecessarily interfere with each other. This is a huge problem depending on what laser you happen to run with a side-mounted weapon light. So now you don't have to worry about grabbing some different type of actual light mount. You can just change the light's positioning on the rail so it doesn't unnecessarily interface with your laser. It is a drive lock rail with a flattened bottom right there where the three nuts and bolts kind of mate, so that makes a much more stable platform if you're going to shoot this thing off of a barricade. And the rail mounting to the receiver uses 2 anti-rotational dowels, stainless steel dowels instead of 1. And another final feature of the rail is it has a lasered texture, which is super aggressive. I really like it. It's almost like they stippled the rail, but the stippling is probably not going to wear down too much over time. If you normally run, I normally run heat panels, like rail scales. I use rail scales on almost everything. I don't really need it on this gun. My main reason for using rail scales generally is for enhanced grip, but with this rifle, I just don't need them. I'm still using a rail scales vertical grip, but I didn't have to throw the panels on there because the rail provides a ample amount of grip because of that laser texture. Another thing, and kind of moving back, talking about the upper receiver, is the placement of the forward assist has been changed, so there's more space between the forward assist and the rear charging handle, which I definitely appreciate. Makes manipulations a little bit easier. You're not necessarily, especially under fast manipulations, going to go in there and kind of knock your knuckles or your fingers or anything like that when trying to manipulate the charging handle, or if you happen to be using the forward assist. Another neat feature is the dust cover can be removed without disassembling, taking off the rail. I think it's a small thing, but it's pretty cool. You'll notice the mating between the upper receiver and the rail is it's got those anti-rotational tabs, which is similar to Sons of Liberty Gunworks broadsword, and also has those two anti-rotational dowels where the rail meets the upper receiver to provide a really strong rigid platform. Well, a big reason for this, of course, is going to be your laser accessories. Rails, depending on what they're made of, what their strength is, also how many anti-rotational features that they have. You've got 4 points of contact, I guess, on this rifle to keep that rail from unnecessarily rotating. And we're not talking about a full rotation. If I put enough pressure on some rails, just a little bit of flex is going to cause my point of aim, point of impact to shift when using a laser device. And if I have to run my lasers as far forward as possible, and I like to, so I can avoid splash with my illuminators and things like that off of my suppressor or other accessories, I don't want to be able to unnecessarily shift my point of aim, point of impact. So the rail ends up being really strong, and of course it's difficult to quantify that until you actually shoot the gun and attempt to cause point of aim, point of impact shifts when you're using it. But running this thing under night vision, I run just a regular PEC 15 on it, full power PEC, just shooting on steel at various distances, going through my normal manipulations, and I wasn't able to cause any noticeable shift, and I can't say that of every rifle I've ever used. The real magic starts with the barrel, and the whole gun is kind of built, I think, around the barrel. It's a medium contour barrel, which comes in 11.5 standard, but other lengths will be available, and it's available as a chrome moly, precision stainless, or RMAD. And it's got a 7.50 gas journal with an enhanced titanium barrel nut, which again adds to that rigidity that we're getting from the rail continuing on to the barrel. RMAD is also something you can get in your bolt, if you like, is for extended barrel life. Most barrels fail with throat erosion first. Using a P3 rifling with that titanium barrel nut, it's a much higher heat configuration that's going to be able to handle a lot more hard use, even abuse, than other barrel materials or material/barrel nut combinations. Most barrels are going to fail with throat erosion first. Using RMAD, you could see round counts ridiculously high. Some RMAD barrels have been able to go, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 rounds before you started to see a noticeable change in accuracy. And that's significant. Again, this goes back to what I said initially. This rifle was originally spec'd for people who probably shoot a lot more than the average AR-15 owner who doesn't shoot professionally. That may hurt some people's feelings, but some people only shoot 500-600 rounds a year. This rifle is spec'd for someone who shoots considerably more than that. But again, in choosing the rifle and picking one up, you don't have to go with the RMAD, which is going to be a little more expensive. You can, if you want a more precise platform, you can go with that stainless steel barrel. And one thing about 416R is it provides a more consistently accurate barrel. But again, most barrels start to fail with throat erosion first. So with the overall improvements of the gun, you might see a higher barrel life out of that with the P3 rifling. A final very cool feature of the barrel, and this was always something I wondered about myself, in your traditional thread pattern that you see on AR barrels, there's not a lot of meat there, right? These barrels come as a 5/8 thread, which provides a lot more material where the threading begins. So that's at the muzzle, meaning your muzzle device is going to have different harmonics, and any device you attach to that muzzle device will then have different harmonics. Also changes the nature of the heat sink created there at the actual exit corking, the explosive gases, how your muzzle device is going to manage that, if it's being propelled into a suppressor, which is then going to change the heat profile of the barrel. So having more meat at the threads changes the harmonics, changes the heat profile, and can give you a much more reliable point of aim, point of impact, depending on which accessories you're hanging off the end of your barrel. When it comes to the lower receiver, which is your functional control center of the rifle, you've got a flared magwell, which most people are gonna kind of expect, but you've also got enhanced fencing on the magazine release and the bolt catch bolt release, which it's something that I always another one of those things where I'm like, why isn't somebody doing this? And this may have happened to you depending on how you run your sling, but it's pretty easy under some manipulations to get your sling caught in the receiver, between the receiver and the paddle lock, paddle release. Also, I've had, other types of material get caught there just when the rifle's slung, like maybe the shirt gets behind it and it snags on it, depending on if you're running slick or running a plate carrier. I remember specifically one time I had a bungee on an HSGI taco get stuck in my my bolt release, and that was just aggravating. And had the fencing been there, it probably wouldn't have happened. So that's just one of those small things that it's like, that's kind of a big deal. It's a tiny little thing that adds into a lot of other tiny little things with this gun that set it apart from other AR-15s. Trigger guard is one piece, rounded and chamfered very nicely, so it's a very comfortable grip. It also allows you to choke up really high on the grip itself, moving back to rear placement, and the castle nut castle end plate, which has a QD if you need it. And it is running the A5 H2 buffer system, which provides a just beautiful relationship with the gas system to give you a gun that you can feel the difference in. The A5 system is probably the best. I don't know if anybody's ever going to be able to make it better, but using the A5 H2 buffer with a Springco green spring, shooting 55 grain, 70, it doesn't matter what you shoot through it. You can feel, and again, this is a little subjective, but you can feel the consistent relationship and the almost perfect dwell time. I say almost perfect because I don't think there's such a thing as perfect dwell time when it comes to shooting, depending on the environment. And there's a lot of outside factors that play into how the rifle is going to perform. The environment has a say. The temperature, the humidity, precipitation, ammunition, the temperature of the ammunition going into the gun. All of these factor into the overall performance of your recoil behavior, especially on semi-automatic. We're looking for consistent splits. For long-range precision, we're looking for consistent operation of that bolt carrier. The inside of the receiver, the raceways, are coated with a proprietary coating to reduce friction. You also see that same coating applied to, and similar coating applied to the bolt carrier group, which just give you, I use the term sewing machine. To me, that's the highest praise for a firearm. If it runs like a sewing machine, you've probably heard that phrase before. Consistent mechanical operation, the human being becomes the only variable factor in how well the gun operates. Left to its own devices, if run as a machine, it would provide consistent operation, consistent splits, consistent manipulations. And then you introduce a human to it, and that's where some of the problems can arise. So as the human factor is always going to be the variable, we want the rifle to always perform mechanically consistent, and this rifle is going to do just that. And kind of the final word on that, when it comes to the bolt carrier group, you can still get a mil-spec 158 bolt with this, or you can get Armod for an increased barrel life. The final feature in this gun worth talking about is the Liberty 2-stage trigger, which is an OEM trigger from Sons of Liberty, included in this gun, also in a lot of their other rifles. I love a 2-stage trigger. Single-stage triggers are nice for dedicated precision rifles, but for just a general-purpose rifle, I like the Liberty 2-stage. My personal feelings on this gun, just using it, and I ran the hell out of it before I wanted to make a video out of it. I'm well over 3,000 rounds at the point. I've taught a couple classes with it, and I also just used it for a lot of my own personal practice. And I mean, you've probably already picked up on kind of some of my feelings about it. You do not have to greatly depart from the functionality and the proven reliability of the AR-15 design, whether ergonomics or mechanical controls and components. Safety selector, trigger, bolt catch, bolt release, all of those things don't have to be dramatically changed because they're already something that's a known quantity. But making small improvements to how they function or how they're protected or how they're able to consistently function is something that the Mark I does. And I think some people are looking for this rifle to be a great departure from the AR-15, and it's not. It's just a continued improvement on a proven platform. And to me, that's what we want. You see militaries try to get away from the M4, get away from the AR-15 design, and then they end up coming back to it because it just keeps working. And I honestly feel like the AR-15 rifle is going to kind of be like the B-52. It's going to be in service for another 100, 150, 200 years. So any future improvements we're going to see are not going to be great departures from the operating system because we've seen people try that. And some of rifles arguably do it well, and some rifles arguably did not do it well, or definitively did not do it well. So the operating system, direct impingement, is going to be here to stay, with the asterisk of some rifles going to a long or a short stroke piston. The ergonomics of the rifle are not going to change dramatically because human beings are not going to change dramatically. So if you're expecting this rifle to shoot laser beams, we're not there yet. But I imagine probably long after we're all gone, all the people watching this gone, there'll probably be an AR-15 chambered in, I don't know, grazer technology, some kind of gamma ray laser or something like that. But it'll still be an AR-15, and people will probably still have things to say about that. From a functional standpoint, just my own personal, again, this is my personal opinion, my use of this rifle, I definitely see all these small enhancements and improvements coming together to create a really good gun. Again, that's kind of subjective, but that's what this is. Does it outperform substantially every other rifle out there? Well, I've got, or have owned, a lot of the big name competitors, and this is the rifle I'm going to use. I'm with Sons of Liberty because of their philosophy, also because of their approach to quality control and customer service. And they make a great gun. I personally feel like the Mark I is the shining example thus far of Sons of Liberty Gunworks' inherent knowledge of the AR-15 and being able to make those improvements on a platform that's already well proven. And now we're getting marginal on their own, but you take a lot of marginal improvements and combine them together and you get a substantially better or a markedly better gun, and that's what we're getting here. Another thing that's worth mentioning about this gun is it is future forward. We're seeing, especially with RMAD and things like that, this gun is going to be capable of handling the next generation of 223, 5.56 ammunition that we're going to see coming soon. A lot of it's going to be mill specific, but you're also going to see that trickle down. You think about not the capabilities of like NOS-3 cased ammunition and things like that. This rifle is going to be, it's already kind of designed to handle that ammunition, and you are going to see other manufacturers follow suit with increasing the rigidity and the overall durability of their rifle to be able to handle that same ammunition. Some people are just going to do it first. Maybe because somebody asked them to. So that's the Mark I and my opinion on the Mark I. Till next time, Aaron Cowan, Sage Dynamics, train accordingly.